Welcome back, NFL fans, to another episode of the Pro Football Insiders Football Buffet. We are entering week 4 after a wild week 3, but I guess every week in the National Football League is wild in some capacity. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined as always by Rob Stats Guerrera. What's up, Rob?
Hey, Jeff.
And Coach Kevin Smith, bringing the X's and O's. What's up, Coach?
How are you guys? Hey, Rob, last week you talked about kickers, right? I mean, that was some foreshadowing, wasn't it?
5 blocked kicks this week, 4 in the fourth quarter, and none of them happened to my 49ers, which is the best part.
Yeah.
There you go. They make a switch. Good for your 49ers. They're 3-0. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics surrounding the NFL, and we're going to start with our story of the week. Rob, I'm going to let you go first. What's your story of the week from week 3?
A mea culpa. I'm sorry, Detroit Lions. You're smart. I'm dumb. You're good looking. I'm not attractive. I didn't believe in you. I had major questions because you had to replace both coordinators. I am sorry. Oh my goodness. Did they absolutely bully the Baltimore Ravens last night? It was a beatdown. They passed for 202 yards in the game, did Detroit, and then ran for 224, almost 6 yards per carry. They sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times in the game. They beat the hell out of Derrick Henry. This was almost perfect. They were 50% on third down was Detroit. They were 3 of 3 on fourth down conversions. They were 4 of 5 in the red zone. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't allow a sack. It was a dominant performance against one of the AFC's best teams and one of the AFC's and the NFL's best quarterbacks. I am sorry for doubting you, Detroit Lions. What an impressive win.
So I'm going to go back to last week's podcast, and I talked about how the Lions can win this game, and not on this program, but on social media, because we clipped it and put it out there to the social media universe, and people said, oh my gosh, the Ravens are going to smoke them. Lamar's only lost, twice to NFC teams, and I said, I've seen this movie before. It's not often that we see it, but we've seen it happen, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens find a way to lose the game. Coach, does this say more about the Lions or to the Ravens to you?
A little bit of both, but I think right now the narrative should be more about Detroit. After losing Ben Johnson and then not looking particularly sharp in week 1, like Rob said, a lot of people were kind of writing their epitaph, but they've put up 90 points the past 2 weeks against Chicago and Baltimore.
Ooh.
And to physically go into Baltimore, like Rob said, and beat down the Ravens and then sprinkle in vintage Dan Campbell, going for it on fourth down, the handoff speed option play to Amon-Ra St. Brown where he pitches it to Jahmyr Gibbs for the touchdown. The beautiful design that they won the game, basically sealed the game, the pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown on fourth down late in the fourth quarter, which they'd set up with a run play, a complement to it earlier in the game. It was just everything you saw from Detroit the last couple of years that you thought you wouldn't see anymore now that Ben Johnson's not.
Kudos to Dan Campbell. A lot of people were saying he's going to get hung out to dry and that his coordinators leave. He has gotten this team playing well. And Coach, I thought about you during the broadcast on Monday Night Football when they said the offensive coordinator knows before the series even starts, if we don't get a conversion on third down, I'm going for it. And on their very first drive of the game, a 4th and 3 in the red zone, Troy Aikman saying, I normally would just you're on the road, take points. And Dan Campbell says, F that, let's go. And they end up scoring a touchdown. Rob, anything you want to say about that?
Well, not about that specifically, but another fourth down decision. What the hell is John Harbaugh doing? There's 4 minutes and 32 seconds left in the game. You're down by 7. It's fourth down, and you're punting. Baltimore is punting back to the Lions. You haven't stopped them running the ball all night. They've got 200 yards rushing. You're down 7. I get it's fourth down and long. I get that. That's not a place you want to be. But why are you giving the ball back? The defense is begging you to give them the ball back. Don't do the thing that the defense wants you to do. I don't know what happened to John Harbaugh, but he is having a rough go of it this year. I thought that was a dumb decision by the Ravens to punt in that spot because you've got to execute the punt successfully. You've got to stop them 3 times, maybe 4, because we know Detroit likes to go for it. Then you've got to field their punt correctly, get the ball back, drive all the way down the field just to get back to where you were right then on fourth down. I thought it made no sense. And when you make decisions like that, you deserve to lose.
People in Baltimore and people in the state of Maryland where I reside, they want Harbaugh gone, and some of them have been wanting it for a long time. And so there's some parallels there with them and the Steelers fan base. But still, let's go to Coach. You haven't even done your story of the week. What's your story of the week, Kevin?
My story of the week really is a message to all the Jalen Hurts haters out there. Like, what else do you need to see from the guy? I mean, all these people that continue to make these arguments that he's not an elite quarterback. Dak Prescott, the one that's been making the rounds on X is Dak Prescott is better than Jalen Hurts. Now, here's Jalen Hurts, who Philadelphia's offense was dead in the water against the Rams on Sunday. They had 20 yards passing 5 minutes into the third quarter. 5 minutes into the third quarter, they had 20 yards passing. They're losing 26-7. They can't get the run game going. And from that point forward, Jalen Hurts went 16 out of 23 for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns, put the Eagles on his back because, again, the run game was just not there, and made all the throws. I mean, all those throws that everybody says he can't make, he did it all. I mean, the Eagles won 19 out of 20. Jalen Hurts has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls. He doesn't look like a traditional quarterback. He's built more like a running back. He will for 2 quarters play very pedestrian football. But ultimately, when the game's on the line, he just keeps winning. And I don't understand the criticism of Jalen Hurts because the body of evidence doesn't warrant it.
Rob, what's your take? Where do you side on Jalen Hurts in this debate?
Well, the weird thing to me is I feel like, and A.J. Brown kind of said this after the game, the part of the reason Jalen Hurts looks the way he does sometimes is because of the Eagles' offense. They look like they're not trying to let him throw. They look like they're trying to do the opposite. And finally, in that game last week, they were like, all right, I guess we got to throw the ball and be aggressive. And then they started to move the ball down the field. The offense itself, it feels to me almost like they're trying to get to 3rd and short and 4th and short so they could run a tush push. It's like, just throw the ball. Like, you don't want to have to do that. It's really weird. I agree with Coach. Like, when you let Jalen Hurts throw it, they can do something. Their personnel is so good. A.J. Brown, that catch he makes where he beats the guy for the ball, comes down, stiff arms him into the ground, and then runs for like 15 more yards. He's amazing. I feel like they need to take the shackles off of that offense.
Yeah, sometimes the play calling does seem like they don't have A.J. Brown, like they don't have Devonta Smith or Dallas Goedert. Like, they have a really good cast of characters around Jalen Hurts, and you would think they would be almost unstoppable with their running game and Saquon Barkley and the offensive line they have. But yeah, kudos to Jalen Hurts for continually getting the job done despite a lot of criticism. Now, my story of the week is more of a question. We did this last week on which 2-0 teams are frauds. I want to ask you guys, and this does not have to be a team that is seeing success. It could be a team that is struggling, and it doesn't have to be a team that hasn't won a game yet. Is there a team, in your opinion, that should be hitting the panic button heading into week 4? Rob, I want to throw it to you first. Who do you think should be pounding that panic button right now?
The Baltimore Ravens. Absolutely the Baltimore Ravens. You have scored 40, 41, and 30 points through 3 weeks, and you only have 1 win. Your defense is getting absolutely destroyed. They've given up 96 points this year. That's the 2nd most in the league, behind only the Miami Dolphins. They missed 20 tackles last night.
Jeez.
20. They are getting worked. They haven't run for 200 yards it's the 2nd straight week that they haven't run for 100 yards. That has never happened in the Lamar Jackson era before last night. They can't stop the run on they're 32nd in success rate against the run this year. 32nd. What has happened to the Baltimore Ravens? And now they're playing Kansas City. One of these 2 teams is going to have 3 losses in 4 games. If I'm Baltimore, I'm absolutely pushing the panic button, especially when you consider that Lamar Jackson is crushing it right now. He's got 10 touchdowns, no turnovers, and you still can't win when he is playing at an incredible level. If you're not worried in Baltimore, you're not paying attention.
All right, Coach, who's hitting the panic button for you?
I think the Houston Texans are in a precarious situation right now. Granted, they've been in all 3 of their games. They've lost 3 one-score games, but they're still 0-3. And Indianapolis is 3-0. And the NFL isn't like Major League Baseball, where you have 162 games and you can be 10 games back in June and still be in it. You're 3 games back at any point in the season. You need to start winning now. And Houston's schedule hasn't exactly been overwhelming. I mean, they've played some division games against a division that's not great. They've got a much tougher part of their schedule coming up, and they're 0-3. They can't get the offense going. CJ Stroud seems to have regressed. Now, is it because he doesn't have great weapons around him? Is it because once they got rid of Bobby Slowick, they haven't been able to figure out how that offense is going to be structured? But whatever it is, man, they are struggling on offense. They're 3 games in the hole already, and the toughest part of their schedule is ahead of them. So I think Houston's got to figure it out fast.
This may sound crazy, and Rob alluded to this game coming up, and we'll talk about it for sure. I think the Kansas City Chiefs should be really close to that panic button. They're 1-2. If they lose this game, as Rob said, they could, and they cut at Arrowhead in week 4, and they fall to 1-3. In terms of the division, they're looking up at a Chargers team that's 3-0 and going into New York to play the Giants. Let's be honest. I mean, that's going to be a foreign. The Chargers can Charger things. We've talked about this before, but that's not looking good. The Chargers, who have had multiple division victories already, most recently coming off of the Denver win, they look like a different football team. And if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs and I'm a follower of the Chiefs, I see this is not a cakewalk anymore. The AFC West used to be a joke. It's not anymore. The Chargers are here, and it doesn't look like they're going away. If I'm a Chiefs fan, you got to win in week 4. You cannot fall that far behind the LA Chargers. I know that sounds crazy on both fronts, but that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it. All right, let's go to our matchup segment. Coach, X's and O's wise, what do you think about this week 4?
I think there's some interesting matchups that aren't involving X and O's. I'll get to the X and O's in a second, but Micah Parsons is going back to Dallas. That'll be fascinating, right? I'm really interested in how he's going to be received by the Cowboy fans. I would imagine he's going to get a favorable reception. I mean, he wasn't the bad guy, at least public perception wise in all of that transpired. So that'll be interesting. Philly's got to go into Tampa, where the temperature is supposed to be around 90 degrees. The humidity is going to be high. I mean, that's the last game they lost where Jalen Hurts played a full game. That was back in last September. They lost down in Tampa. Tampa's been a thorn in Philly's side over the years. But if we're just talking X and O's, boy, the Pittsburgh Steelers flying over to Ireland to play the Minnesota Vikings against Brian Flores' defense. I mean, Pittsburgh's they better figure it out, or Aaron Rodgers isn't going to make it to 42. You know, I mean, he's getting the ball out so fast because Pittsburgh can't pass protect. Now, granted, there were no sacks this past week in their victory against New England, but Aaron Rodgers, of the 23 passes he threw, 11 of them were either at or behind the line of scrimmage. My God, what does that tell you? It tells you, man, they're terrified of not being able to pass protect him and getting the ball out. You know, he had 23 throws for 139 yards. That's terrible in terms of yards per pass. And now you're going to be up against that Brian Flores, you know, mad scientist defense where you're going to have to make a lot of decisions fluidly as to who's coming, how you're going to protect it, etc. So this needs to be a great game plan week for the Steelers if they want to survive Flores' defense.
Are you saying take the under of the 40.5 in that week 4 game?
You don't know, man, because here's the other thing, though. It is a bit of a boom or bust defense, right? You do get DK Metcalf one-on-one on the outside, and you're going to get some jump balls and things like that. You get Calvin Austin, who's got elite speed, one-on-one on the outside, and the Steelers were able to hook up with those guys for touchdowns against New England. So if Flores really brings the heat and rolls the dice, and Pittsburgh pops some stuff down the field, you might get some points.
Well, you would trust Aaron Rodgers to be able to make those pre-snap reads, yes?
He better be able to, you know, he better be able. I don't know how much freedom he has to change protections in Pittsburgh or call protections like Ben Roethlisberger did, but you would like to think that he'll be able to be in charge of that because they'll need his experience there.
Rob, what do you think?
I just think it's a sneaky big game for the AFC North. Pittsburgh's tied for the division lead right now at 2-1 with Cincinnati. Cincinnati has no Joe Burrow, maybe for the rest of the season. The Ravens are 1-2. The Browns are 1-2. If Pittsburgh can get this win, all of a sudden, like, you're looking really good in the division.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be 3-1 heading into an early week 5 bye week, getting healthy on the defensive side, coming out of that bye. It's going to be interesting for sure. Rob, what's your commentary, stats on fire commentary this week?
I already gave my mea culpa to the Detroit Lions, so I'm sorry. But I have to give another I'm sorry. The Colts, man. I cannot believe it. I can't explain it. I don't know how it's happening, But when you only punt once in 3 games, which are the first NFL team to do that since FDR was in office, like, yeah, damn, man, you're getting it done. And maybe I didn't have enough faith in Daniel Jones, but I could see them actually beating the Rams this week, especially with the Rams team that is coming off a devastating loss in their last game with the 2 blocked field goals to the Philadelphia Eagles when they blew a massive lead. Like, I'm sorry, Indianapolis Colts. I didn't believe in you. But, like, when we continue to get new information that challenges your opinion, you got to change your opinion. And clearly I was wrong. Indianapolis, possibly for real?
It takes a man to admit they're wrong. Coach, Danny Dimes, the revenge tour continues.
I'm glad that Rob has come around on Danny Dimes. You know, I mean, it's just he's playing great football. He really is. And I think week 1, I said, hey, you guys, the Colts are going to win, blah, blah, blah. I did not expect this to become a thing, that Daniel Jones would on a regular basis play solid football. It speaks to the value, though, of coaching. I mean, he struggled in New York in a dysfunctional system where for years and years they couldn't surround him with either the scheme or the personnel to help him succeed. He goes to Minnesota. I'm sure he learned a lot from Kevin O'Connell, but Shane Steichen is widely regarded as one of the better play callers in the league, not necessarily a head coach, but as a play caller and play designer. And he's supported there. He's got a good run game. He's got a tight end. That's a great security blanket. He's got a solid offensive line. It's amazing if you give a guy good coaching and good structure, how he can succeed.
Yeah, that's well said. Now, we want to get to our prediction segment. I need to give a shout out here because, yes, my upset pick last week of the Bears over Dallas hit, but it was nothing like Coach Kevin Smith's upset prediction. Carolina Panthers just blowing the doors off of the Falcons to the point where Kirk Cousins was put into the game in garbage time because it was that bad. It was a hell of a pick, Coach. I'll give you credit. That was a hell of a pick. Let's start with you, Coach. What is your pick? It doesn't have to be an upset pick. What's your prediction for this week?
I mean, full disclaimer, my pick last week was like a kid at a birthday party swinging the stick at the piñata, man. You know?
It doesn't matter.
I was just lucky to connect, man. You know? Hey, man, I talked Jalen Hurts up in that first segment, and now I'm going to pick him to get upset. You know, I think Philly is in a tough spot. You're coming off of a huge emotional win. They didn't look great for a lot of that football game against the Rams. And like I mentioned before, you got to go down into Tampa where the temperature is going to be 90 degrees. That takes some acclimation. It's tough on your legs when you're not used to that heat and humidity. Now, I know we're not that far removed from summer, but Florida heat, if you guys have been down there, is a little bit different than the Northeast. And Tampa has been a thorn in Philly's side. The last 2 times Philly's gone down to Tampa, they've gotten throttled. They lost both those games by more than 2 touchdowns. So the Buccaneers are playing great football right now, and I think they'll be fired up. I think this is a great chance for them on a big stage to prove that they belong in the conversation with the best teams in the league.
Damn it, Coach. You stole my pick. I was saying the Buccaneers getting 3.5 at home, the home dogs. I'm going to take the Buccaneers getting those points all day, all night. I think the Eagles are a good team. I'm not going to take that away from them. But man, sometimes it's smoke and mirrors with Philadelphia, and so I think those come back and get them a little bit. I'm going to take the Buccaneers as well, getting 3.5 points at home. Rob, do you have a pick for this week?
I like both of them. Like, I love Baker and Tampa Bay. I think that they could easily get to the conference championship game and even the Super Bowl. So I'm on board with you guys there. My prediction is going to be that the loser of the Chiefs-Ravens game is going to miss the playoffs entirely.
Ooh, that's bold.
Mark the tape.
Yeah.
I think the loser is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs this year. Like, we were talking in the Slack before the show, the Chiefs are not good and they're boring. Their offense, I can't believe I'm saying this about an Andy Reid coach team and a Patrick Mahomes quarterback team. They're boring on offense. It is a slog to watch them, which is crazy because I think Andy Reid is the best offensive mind of his generation. I really do. I have so much respect for him, but they're not good on offense. They really haven't been for a couple of years. And we're at the point now where we're saying, oh, you got to get Patrick Mahomes some weapons and some help, which is hilarious to me because he was always held up as a guy that could put the team on his back completely by himself. I think Kansas City, they've had a lot of winning, a ton of winning. It is hard to sustain that year after year after year. And I think they are going to lose this game to Baltimore. I think they're going to fall to 1-4, and I think that they are going to miss the playoffs. And it's crazy to say, but we're going to see a postseason without Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Now, Rob, do you think if they get some of those offensive weapons, we're talking about Xavier Worthy, maybe Rashee Rice, if they get them back, do you think that changes anything?
It will help, but I don't think that it's going to change that dramatically. And even the Kansas City defense this year it hasn't, been top tier, top shelf like we've seen some of the Spagnuolo defenses of the past. I just look, it's hard to do what Kansas City has done for as long as they have done it. They have played for a Super Bowl every year of Patrick Mahomes' career. They've never failed to get to the conference championship game as long as he's been the starter. It's okay for them to have one bad year, and I think this is that year.
Coach, what do you think about that?
I think Rob's right. I mean, they've become almost predictable. When it's third and medium, they're going to run some kind of option route to Kelsey. Right. When it's third and long, they're going to get Mahomes out of the pocket and try to run something to the sideline. I mean, they're leaning in heavily on Mahomes continuing to do the things that have made him an elite quarterback, but it gets harder and harder. I mean, you can only pull so many rabbits out of so many hats before it catches up to you, and it feels like it's starting to catch up.
It's a great segue into our feature game of the week, but it's games of the week. There's no way, we talked about this before we hit record, we could just talk about one of these games. There's 3 games on the docket that are considered must-watch games. And Ravens, Chiefs, that is a 4:25 CBS game. That's Eastern Standard Time. Both teams 1-2. Rob, how do you see this game shaking out at Arrowhead?
I think Baltimore is going to win it, as I've said. The Chiefs' schedule, too. I mean, they still have to play, obviously, the Ravens. They have to play the Lions. They have to play the Bills. They're going to have to play their division teams, which the division obviously is much better. The Broncos, the Chargers. Like, it is going to get dark in a hurry for Kansas City. I think Baltimore is going to be extra motivated coming off of this loss, obviously, like we talked about. I think we're going to see more squabbling on the sideline. By the way, anybody notice Andy Reid, kind of throw the shoulder into Travis Kelce? He didn't avoid the contact. He went for it, man. I think this is going to be bad for Kansas City. I think Baltimore will win, and it's crazy to say, but that's what I think is going to happen.
Coach, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think this is a game where the Ravens win these types of games. Now, can they slay the Kansas City Dragon that has been dominating them in the postseason? Can they do that in September now? I think so. The challenge will be down the road if Kansas City gets there, but they're physical. Baltimore's physical, and Kansas City doesn't quite look as physical on defense as they did a year ago.
I've seen this song and dance. I've heard it before, Van. Coach, you said it on multiple podcasts. You have to drive that stake all the way through their heart. I could see a world where Kansas City finds a way to win this game. I honest to God could, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, they're 2-2. Everything's fine. It's going to be wild, and that's going to be a must-watch game for sure. Let's go to the next one. Danny Dimes goes to L.A. SoFi. This is a 4:05 kickoff on Fox. Colts 3-0, Rams 2-1. Rob, what do you think about this game?
Well, like I talked about earlier, Indianapolis has been incredibly impressive. The Rams are coming off that emotional loss. This will be the game that if the Colts win, the feeling on them will sway, right? Because everybody thought the Rams were going to be really good this year, and so far they have been. But, the Rams really impressed everybody with the way they played Philly in the playoffs last year. So if the Colts can go out in L.A., which is not the greatest of home field advantages, let's be honest. But if the Colts can go in there and get a win, you will see the public perception of them turn, and people will start to say what I said today, which is, hey, I'm starting to believe this might be a real thing with the Colts. Big test for Sean McVay. Can you get your team up after that emotional loss? Can you get them to bounce back? It's going to be fascinating to see. I think Sean McVay is an incredible coach, so if anybody can do it, he can do it. But that's what I'm going to be watching this week.
Coach, anything to add on that matchup?
I like the Rams in that matchup. I think this is one of those classic games where, as a team, you're coming back on the plane from Philadelphia and nobody sleeps because you're so pissed off that you let that one get away. And I think Sean McVay is the type of coach who harnesses that and figures out how to use it for a positive moving forward. So I think the Rams will be really sharp on their game. And I don't think, not a negative reflection on Indianapolis, but they've played probably a little over their head so far. I think this is a tough one for them.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Like, I love the Colts are 3-0. It's a great story. Daniel Jones is a good story in and of himself, but they beat the Dolphins in week 1. They barely snuck out a win in week 2 against the Broncos thanks to a roughing the center call on a field goal. And they beat the Titans, who are not a good football team. So I'm not saying that they're bad, but I'm just going to say that if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world, and we shouldn't say that we were completely shocked. But let's finish with that game down in Tampa. Eagles, Buccaneers. Hey, the Bucs are going to wear their whites. They're going to put the Eagles in the sun. They're going to make them wear the dark jerseys. They've been doing this forever. Rob, you've already said you like Baker Mayfield. Is there anything else you're looking for in this contest?
Well, this matchup is so interesting to me because Philadelphia is always like a gritty team that can grind it out in the end. And Tampa Bay, I believe, is the first team ever to have 3 go-ahead scores in the final minute of the game for the first 3 weeks of the season. So both have that kind of gritty quality, like find a way to win in the end. So I'm interested to see that kind of matchup. But I do believe, I think Baker is incredible. I don't know why more people, we kind of looked at him as damaged goods, but to me, Baker Mayfield, from the time he's come into the league, has always shown that if you put the pieces around him, he can do it. He set the rookie quarterback touchdown pass record with the Cleveland Browns, and he didn't even start every game that year because they didn't put him in till a few games in. When you put structure and competence around Baker Mayfield, he's not just good, he's great. And I got to be honest, if it comes down to Jalen Hurts versus Baker, I'm picking Baker.
Coaching matters. Like I said last week, people were thinking Baker should be comeback player of the year. It's not, he wasn't hurt. He just played for Cleveland. And so coaching matters. But Coach, anything you haven't said about Philly, Tampa Bay that you'd like to add?
I just add real quick, the Eagles need to get Saquon Barkley going. I mean, I know that he's obviously the focal point of everybody's defensive efforts these days, but a year ago he averaged almost 120 rushing yards per game. He's averaging about half that right now, 65 yards per game. So whether they can get him going, I think will dictate how that game goes in general.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one for sure. Again, great slate of games. This is the first international game. Coach mentioned the Pittsburgh, Minnesota game will be 9:30 a.m. Eastern time in Dublin, Ireland. It's going to be a good docket of games. The Monday night doubleheader again. Not that everyone wants to watch those games, but that's neither here nor there. So, Rob, why don't you tell us where we can find your San Francisco 49ers coverage?
Just search Gold Standard 49ers wherever you get your audio podcasts or on YouTube. We pop right up. We do live shows every day. We're live after all breaking news. We're immediately live after the game is over. Had a bunch of happy recaps this year so far. Hopefully that continues, but give us a chance. I promise you'll come back.
R.I.P. Joey Bosa's ACL. But Coach, what do you guys say?
I'm on X at KT Smith FFSN. Tuesdays and Thursdays now are film room days. Tuesday, I had a film room out on the Detroit Lions and their offense Monday night. Film room on Pittsburgh Steelers rookie defensive tackle Derek Harmon. Thursday, I got my 2 favorite rookies, man, Cam Scadaboo and Emeka Ibuka. I got some film rooms coming out on them. And then our Call Sheet Daily podcast on Wednesday, Coach Frank Lasasso is with me, and we're talking about how coordinators layer plays. How do you build constraint or alternative plays off of core plays in an offense? That's going to be a fun conversation.
Absolutely. You can find Coach Kevin Smith and my Steelers coverage at the Steel Curtain Network, wherever you get your podcasts, and steelcurtainnetwork.com. I want to remind everyone to check out the Pro Football Insiders website, profootballinsiders.com. You want to make sure you go there to get all of the breakdowns around the NFL, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Guys, this has been another buffet. I'm full. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.